Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Too Opinionated. I'm just so excited today. I've got musician, author, radio host, spokesperson, Gene Watson with me. So welcome, Gene.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
That's a lot of hats.
It is. I'm busy, and there's always, my husband always says that I need 48 hours in my days, and even then, I wouldn't finish my list.
See, if I had 48-hour days, I'd waste half of them.
I would too.
Yeah, because that's what ends up getting pushed is you don't get the downtime.
Well, exactly.
So if you had extra time, maybe you'd relax.
I don't think so. I have so many interests in life, and so if I have more time, there's just more time to do more stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't relax very often.
So I was telling you off camera, I've been listening to your music, and it's just beautiful. You've got you're so talented as a violinist, amazing. But you've got a very nice singing voice as well. It's really good. So I've enjoyed that. That's been filling the house, and the great part about it is you've got a lot of Christmas stuff. So we've been playing that the whole weekend. We played your stuff.
I do. I think I could just do nothing but Christmas music. I love Christmas. I've done 3 Christmas albums, and I promise you I'm not finished. There'll be a 4th someday. Christmas music, there's so much wonderful.
Oh, it's terrific. So my granddaughter turns 2 later this week, and she loves Do You Hear What I Hear? So when your version of that came on, she sang right along with it. She does pretty good. She gets most of it, but she gets the she harmonizes well. Some of the words she may mess up, but she does pretty good.
Well, that's where I first heard that song. I was a little girl, and I'm going to date myself here, but I had a plastic record player, and my mother gave me records to put on it, and there were only 3 kinds of music that she gave me. It was classical music, and like some folk songs of the world, and then lots of Christmas music. And so I remember being a little girl and hearing that, Do You Hear What I Hear? I think it was probably like the Harry Simeon chorale. And I loved the cover, you can see the little drummer boy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm thinking of the little drummer boy.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was those early Christmas recordings that I think really inspired me, that I wanted to sing Do You Hear What I Hear in particular. Yeah.
It's such a beautiful song. Mine, that I also had the little plastic record. It was kind of like almost like a briefcase that you would open up and have a little record. And mine was, I had a Burl Ives Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but it had all kinds of Christmas songs on it. So he sang all of those, and that's the one that I was playing all the time.
Yeah.
I probably still got that record player somewhere, probably in an attic at mom and dad's, who knows.
Yeah.
So Gene, talk a little bit about how you got started. What made you want to, what started your interest in music? What made you want to become a musician? How'd you go about that?
Mm-hmm. Well, my parents were amateur musicians. Dad sang in the choir.
Yeah.
Mom was a music teacher for a while, and also enjoyed singing. And so they loved music, and music was part of the atmosphere of our house. A lot of it was classical. So that's what I was steeped in, was mostly classical music during those years. But I wanted to play an instrument. I wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be part of this fun thing that everybody was doing. So when I was 7 years old, they introduced the stringed instruments at school, and I saw a violin, and I just said, okay, I'll pick that. And so honestly, I didn't even care about the violin. It was just, that was the first thing that I saw. So I said, okay. So I always tell people, if someone had shown me a tuba first, I'd be a tuba.
But yeah, that was going to be my next question. What would have been the instrument if it hadn't been a violin?
Oh goodness, I like oboe. I love the, I guess I pick sounds that are kind of they tug on the heartstrings. And
Yeah,
violin does that. I mean, the violin can just wreck you.
absolutely
I,
does.
I take it into the prisons, and I can go into a high security prison, and I'm talking to rapists and murderers,
Yeah.
and they're all rowdy, and I'll just pull out that violin, play a little tune, and boom, they're all laid out in tears, you know. So I don't know. I think I've heard that the harmonic spectrum of the violin is the closest to the human voice as any instrument. So
Oh, I love that. I haven't heard that. I'm
yeah,
assuming what's the saying? The music soothes the savage beast
yeah,
in all of
absolutely.
us.
It touches the heart, and the violin
Yeah.
in particular seems to stir up emotion. So that's why I picked that one. I played all through elementary school up to high school, and realized I really wanted music to be what I did with my life. So
Do
went on to
you
study.
play now? Do you play any other instruments?
You know, I do play piano,
Yeah.
um, not not as well, but I learned to play piano because I really needed to, and so I just sort of, jumped into that pool. So I do play piano functionally, and you'll hear me playing on some of my recordings. A lot of times the piano part is actually me.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really good. That's really good. When did you start singing?
I loved singing in high school, and in college. I went to a music conservatory, big
Yeah.
fancy, fancy people. And I used to walk down the singers hallway and listen to them, and I was so jealous. I was like, oh, I wish I could sing, but it was like too late. I was on the violin track, and so I later in life, I someone heard me sing and said, you ought to take some lessons. So I did study a little bit of classical voice, and loved it, and but it was like there was no place for that in my life. It was just fun. But then later in life, my landlord accidentally heard me singing Christmas carols. He was coming in the house. He was bringing, I was a single mother at the time. And so he felt sorry for us. And he's bringing a Christmas tree in the front door of our rented house. And he heard me singing Christmas carols on a recording that I'd made for a friend. And he stopped, and he just was like, what is that? And I said, oh, that's just a gift I made for a friend. And he said, who's singing? And I said, well, that's me. Like, doesn't everybody do that? And he sat down on my couch, and he actually cried. He just put his head in his hands, and he said, I don't know what you're doing with your life, but that's what you should be doing with your life. So get this, he gave me my rent money back. And he said, don't pay me, take this money to a recording studio and make a real CD. And that was the beginning of a recording career. So
That's that's a Christmas movie right there.
it is. And it really happened.
It's
And it was,
amazing.
yeah, it was a miracle. It was a
Have you
miracle. And
seen him since that time?
yes, in fact, he has since passed away. He had a heart attack, unfortunately, but he loved watching me soar. That early money he gave me, and it wasn't even the money, it was the confidence and the encouragement. He
Yeah.
said, you have a gift, and I want to see you run with that gift and change the world. Like, go. And so he used to love, when he first saw me do my first tour in Europe, he's like, oh, go, just he loved it. And knowing that he was a part of beginning that whole story was tremendously satisfying to him. I think brought a lot of joy.
What a story. Yeah, I love that. That's terrific. So you mentioned the prisons. Talk a little bit about your work with them.
Right. So that happened sort of accidentally. Everything in my life used to happen accidentally, accidentally on purpose, as my kids would say.
That's
So
right.
I was in England, and the person set up a particular tour, said, would you be willing to go into a women's prison? I said, sure, why not? So I started in England in the women's prison, and I loved it. I didn't know what to expect. And when I got there, here's all these hurting people. You
Yeah.
don't know why they're there. You just see a room full of pain. And and I couldn't touch them. We weren't allowed to touch, but I just looked out in the sea of people, and I saw hurt. And so the only way I could love them was through my music and through my eyes. So I would just use eye contact to look at them and say, I see you, I notice you, you're valuable, you're a person, and I love you without knowing, God loves you. And
Right.
that was the message I brought. And it resonated so much. And I didn't know I would enjoy that so much. There's so much joy there in the
Yeah.
response. And they were just hungry for music. Imagine living in a world where you never get to hear a lot of music. And so when you do hear it, it's like, oh, music, they really appreciate it. So then I started doing the same thing in the United States. And I loved particularly the men's prisons, and went into the darker ones, all the way up to just before solitary confinement. These guys are bad, they're bad
Yeah.
dudes. There are guards lining the rooms and surrounding me, protecting me at very high security. And the same thing, I would just go in and see pain and have the ability to just, again, just speak to them through my eyes, speak to them through my music, and just tell them the message. They may have made a mistake, but it doesn't mean they're not valuable anymore, or that nobody sees them. And so it was so powerful, and just brought so much joy. And I kept doing that over the years, and then eventually got connected with Prison Fellowship International. And so now they send me around to different prisons, and I get to do that in partnership with them, which is just amazing.
That is. That's so empathetic. That's so valuable. You don't think about that, but when you have everything taken away, something as simple as a song or music, I mean, that can really make a difference, I think, in your life and where you're at a specific time. That's terrific.
Well, you feel like we all make mistakes. And so, but for the grace of God, that could be me.
That's right.
I mean, so, and it's not to excuse anything that's done that was terrible. Of course, we don't excuse that. But I feel like my role or my job is really to just be there, and maybe as a source of healing through the music and comfort. And then also to draw them to God again, because what happened in my life was so crazy, miraculous, that I can take that message in there and say, hey, God can do the same thing for you. You're valuable. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's terrific. Is there a difference in an English prison and one of our prisons?
Yes, yes, a little bit. I think when I went to the British prisons, I would refer to them as prisoners or inmates, and
Yeah.
I was quickly corrected. They're not called inmates; they're called residents.
Oh,
Residents.
well, that's nicer.
Well, it is nicer. I feel like it's maybe a little too nice. They have a dining hall with several choices of meals, and I'm thinking, this isn't too bad. You got a television in your cell, and it's free. So I feel like the British mentality is a little bit more rehabilitative, or that poor person made a little mistake. I don't know. And in America, I feel it's a little bit more black and white, which maybe is better. I mean, we need to, somebody screws up, they need to know that what they did is wrong. And so I don't know. I was surprised in England. Now I've been in Ireland as well. And that was different. It was more hardcore.
Right. I'm not sure what the right answer is. I know we have an overcrowded system. So maybe if we did a better job rehabilitating, it would get more out of our prisons. I don't know. I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know the answer. I feel like, again, my job is to just kind of meet them at where they are, and
that's right,
and just bring what I have, which is maybe some hope and some inspiration, some comfort, and love in the way that I can give it. I had a prisoner in a inmate resident in Northern Ireland, and he was giving me a really hard time. This guy was just catcalling me and swearing at me. It was just nasty, and he was trying to get me to stop singing. And instead of stopping, I pulled my microphone right in front of his chair, and I got as close as I could get without the guards freaking out. And I just sang right to his eyes, just right to him, like, you're valuable, and just loved on him. And the guy just, he melted and put his head in his hands and he cried. And then afterwards, he came up to me and asked if I would pray for him. And so, I feel like a lot of that acting out, they're kind of like children.
Yeah.
And what they really need is a listening ear.
That's terrific. Yeah, I love that so much. I love that so much. So you host a radio program?
Yes.
And it's got an Irish spin on it, right?
Yes. Well, it is in Ireland. It's
in Ireland.
Yeah, yeah. So when I was little, back in the days of the plastic record player, I remember my mom gave me folk songs of the world. And so, listening to Celtic music when I was 4, 5, 6 years old, and I loved Irish things. And so when I was a little girl, I made a picture of Ireland. I always wanted to go there. And so when I went through a dark time in my life, ended up going through a terrible divorce, had 4 kids. So I told you I was the single mother of 4 and really struggling financially, emotionally, and spiritually. And I began to pray that God would open up the door to go to Ireland, the land of my dreams. Let's reinvent life. Let's start over again. We screwed it up the first time. So anyway, so I began to pray that prayer, before I die, I think I will have missed something if I don't get to Ireland. And so I was touring over in England and eventually met an Irish pastor who opened the door to Ireland. I started singing there and speaking. Really resonated with the Irish people. There was a connection. I think my voice sounds a little Celtic, so they liked the music and my message. It was just the right thing at the right time. So I was performing in a little town called Dundalk outside of Dublin one night, and the concert went really well. And afterwards, this is a Monday night concert. Who goes to a concert on Monday?
The Irish, apparently.
The Irish do. And so they showed up. And so I do this concert, and they were so moved that they lined up to speak to me, and they wanted a prayer or a word of encouragement. So I am speaking to these people until 1 o'clock the next morning. This is going on. And it was so funny because they would be standing in line, and then they'd go outside for a smoke or down to the pub to have a pint, and then they'd come back up in line. So I'm having this moment with all these people, and a man came up to me and he said, "I've watched you pour yourself out to exhaustion for the Irish people. Would you like a bigger microphone?" And by this time I'm going, yes, I'm so tired of talking to people one at a time and been in the prisons and all this. And he said, "I'm the program director for United Christian Broadcasting's Broadcasting Ireland Radio. Why don't you try a radio show?" And so we set up a microphone in my house in Michigan, and I started recording in my basement. In early days, I had a coat hanger with pantyhose over it, as a pop screen.
Yeah.
So I'm sticking into my pantyhose, and the kids are still living at home with me. And so I'd be recording, and somebody would flush a toilet or slam a door. And I'd be like, "I told you, kids, go outside. Don't flush the toilet." And then I'd get back on the air. "Thank you for listening to UC. God bless." So that's how that started. I've been doing that show in Ireland for 10 years.
That's amazing. I listened to some bits and pieces. You're very open. You're very personal on there, and kind of get into some tough subjects. So it's really good. It's really good. So I can see why it's doing so well. Have you thought about expanding into the Americas?
I would love to do that. I don't know how to make that connection. I'd love to see it, whatever gets syndicated or however, a bigger reach. I love the fact that it can be so personal. I just got an email from a man who was Hungarian or something, who was listening to it, and he was telling me about how he relied on the sound of my voice, and that was very
Wow.
comforting to him. I've had gotten email from different countries in the world, because you can pick it up on satellite,
Yeah.
people that were suicidal and heard my voice maybe in the middle of the night saying, don't give up, don't give up, you're valuable, you're important, God loves you, there's a purpose for your life. And and it's, I never get to see that audience, so sometimes you wonder, is anybody actually listening? But
Tell me about it. Try podcasting. Now, what a journey, though. You've had such an interesting life, and we're just scratching the surface. So
yeah,
you also play in a symphony.
yeah, I
So
do.
you got to do some classical music.
I do, and I still play in the symphony here in Kalamazoo. That was another miracle. I was, going back to that low point, and I'm just praying. Like, I felt like I had just so messed up my life. I had all this promise, I had all this talent, and all this education, and I ended up in a rented house in Kalamazoo trying to feed my kids. How does that happen? And not playing music and feeling so lost. And I cried out to God. I said, Lord, I've screwed it up, give me another chance. And the phone rang after I prayed that, and I picked it up, and there's a man's voice I didn't recognize. He said, is this Gene Watson? And I thought it was a telemarketer, and I'm ready to hang it up, and he says, do you play the violin? And I thought, how does anybody know I play the violin? I haven't played in a long time. And turns out he was the concert master of our local symphony, and which is like the head dude, and he was in a restaurant the night before and heard about me, a classically trained violinist that had moved to Kalamazoo and was highly trained, and
Yeah.
he wanted to hear me play. And so we arranged a little audition, and he's, in his words, he told me later, he said, in walks this woman, and her self-esteem is on the floor, and she has no idea how talented she is. And he gave me a job. He helped me get a job playing in the orchestra. So once again, like, I'm sitting here and these doors are opening in very strange ways that I can't explain. And all of this story became part of the message that I could then share with people that might be in similar situations. So, and I still
Yeah.
play in the orchestra to this day.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's the case with a lot of us. We just don't always do the best job listening. Those doors open and those opportunities are there, especially when we're at our lowest. And a lot of times we don't hear them. I think that's so terrific that you were actually open to the door opening.
Yeah. I always tell people, pray, and believe, but then you got to also answer the phone. You got
That's
to
right.
answer the phone, go get your mail, read your email, and
Yeah.
then don't be afraid to dream. I dreamed some ridiculous dreams. I prayed some insanely impossible prayers, and was like, why not? Why not?
Yeah. Why not?
And the things that were in my heart, even from childhood, playing the violin, going to Ireland, all of those things, I think, were really part of who I was made to be. And it was just really having the faith to believe that those things could be possible if I would go for it and take some risks.
Yeah, that's scary.
It is. It is, yeah, but very, very fun. And then, losing that fear of rejection, like, what are people going to think, or am I going to fail? Am I going to make a fool out of myself? I think that a lot of people fall short of what they're capable of because of their fears. And so,
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct. So not that you had enough to do, somewhere in there you decided you would write a book.
yeah. Well, as I was traveling to all these places, I started encountering people, and all of the things that I saw happen in the prisons and on the street corners and after the concerts and on the airplanes. All these encounters with people were so inspiring to me. And I had this heart full of stories and no one to tell them to. So I started writing them down. I thought, people need to hear this story. And I was telling them on the radio, but it wasn't a big enough audience. And so I wrote them down in a book called Everything Can Change in 40 Days. And it was about the change that happened in my life, going from being this person that with the low self-esteem and barely scraping by in every way, to someone who is, living into their potential and their destiny and inspiring others to do the same. So it's my journey, but it's also a 40-day devotional that's designed to maybe share some of the tools that helped me along the way.
I love that. I love that. And so what made you choose 40 days? Was that the timeline that kind of fit what happened to you?
No, I was writing and I kept hearing this number 40 in my mind. And I was like, 40, yeah. What's this all about? And so I did some research on it. And in the Bible, 40 is a really big number. That it rained for 40 days and 40 nights, Noah's Ark. And
that's right.
Jesus was in the wilderness for 40 days. All these 40s throughout the Bible was a number where something was happening. There was a process going on. And a very sacred number in the Jewish tradition. And then even in science, like there are 40 weeks from for a baby to form in its mother's womb is 40 weeks. I mean, is that crazy? That's blows my mind. And so I discovered that in Judaism, 40 is considered a number of transformation, process. And so I said, okay. I invite the reader to set aside 40 days to read the book and then see what happens. And hopefully there will be some changes going on.
I love that. I think that's so great. My grandfather was a Baptist minister. He would love that. He'd have loved the symbolism.
Yeah.
He'd have enjoyed the 40 days.
For sure. Even for a person that's not religious, I think, of course, my experience is faith-based, and so I'm going to write that perspective, my understanding. But I think there are tools in the book, such as not getting stuck in your past. I spent so many years in regret about mistakes I made and feeling angry about mistakes other people had made that led to my place in life. And I think a lot of people that I see in homeless shelters and prisons are stuck right there. If only I did this, if only this hadn't happened. And, what a massive waste of energy, because we can't do anything about it. And so the book talks about that, letting go of your past, living free of fear, which is another paralyzing thing. And then learning to love yourself and other people in the moment. And so even if a person isn't necessarily a believer, I think they can learn, some of those universal tools of life, which are just healthy.
Yeah, I absolutely love that, because I think a lot of us suffer from that, where you make mistakes in your life and then you can't get out of them. You're, because of guilt or maybe it's anger or whatever it is, but you get stuck in those moments and it affects you for most of your life. And I think that's really really great, because I think it's, when you're looking at the past, you've got to own the past, but you can't let the past own you. You've got to move on from it. So I absolutely love that.
Yeah, and I've met just so many people on my journey that I have prayed with or whatever, and they are paralyzed or stuck in those things. I think particularly bitterness towards other people. Somebody's hurt them, and then the bitterness ends up consuming not the one that did the thing.
But no, they've moved on.
They've moved on. But the one that we've got hurt, we've gotten hurt, and we have a choice to decide what we're going to do with that pain, and it can either consume us, or we can learn to do something, let go of it and move on and not let it control us anymore. So
yeah, that's pretty great. Do you also do like speaking engagements where you talk about some of this stuff that you put into the book?
Yeah, I speak a lot. I do a lot of women's conferences.
Yeah.
Most of them church-based, but I'm married to a retired Air Force chaplain.
Oh,
And so through the military connection, I've also been on military bases speaking to military wives. I've been as far as Guam. The Air Force, if you can believe this, the Air Force sent me to Guam, all expenses paid. I
wow.
had to suffer in a Hilton resort. It was wonderful. There I was on a coral reef in Guam, and they sent me across the world because there's a high suicide rate on the island of Guam, and the
Yeah.
women that are left at the Air Force Base, maybe their husbands are off on a ship somewhere, and there's so much loneliness, so much depression, and so they saw value in bringing someone like me to speak to them about dealing with their pain. And so I love that ministry of,
That's terrific.
basis, and that's all stopped because of COVID, but I'm hoping to do more of that in the future. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hope you can get back to that. That's so valuable. How did you and your husband meet?
Very unromantically. Well, very unromantically. I'm thinking of it. It was and it wasn't unromantic. Someone had been praying for me a long time ago, and saw a picture of a man in their prayer who was wearing a blue military uniform coming alongside me. And
Yeah.
so, and sure enough, many years later, this is the unromantic part, I saw a free ad for eHarmony in my email. And it was a free weekend of communication. I thought, oh, I'm not going to do that. That's for those losers that. But then I thought, well, maybe I'm just being proud. So I put one picture of myself up there and a little statement. And the next day, my soon-to-be husband responded, and he was wearing a blue military uniform. He was at the time serving in South Dakota, and so we met and just knew pretty instantly that it was a good fit. We dated for a year, got married. He retired, and it's been so fun. He's from Alabama, and so he loves to say, and I'll make fun of him here. He says, Jean, I'm more called to your ministry than you are. And so he was a leader in the Air Force, but he loves serving me. Like, he believes in what I do, and so he's the one that I had a concert last night in Wisconsin, and I'll drive in the driveway, and he's the first one out there to unpack all my bags, and he's my roadie. So
that's a good husband.
oh, he's great. He's my roadie, and he is my biggest cheerleader. He's always cheering me on.
I think that's pretty romantic. That's not an unromantic story.
Well, it is, except, there's this stigma about meeting someone on the internet, but it's just really, in our day and age, it's a way to meet somebody that you wouldn't normally.
That's right. And it's only a stigma with us older people. Right. Younger people, that's just normal.
Yeah. I always, when people ask me, I always am a little embarrassed to say, we met online, but we met online and it worked really well.
It's worked really well. So that's terrific. So we've done all of this talking about all that you're doing, and we haven't even talked about your music really.
Oh
no. So you just released a song.
Yes.
Which song was that?
Carol of the Bells was released as a single, and this was something that I recorded a while ago, but never got a real welcome in the world. And we thought, why don't we bring it out of the box in 2021? And I did a video in Northern Ireland of me playing the song, and we recorded the video in September. And so the videographer said, how are we going to do Christmas in Ireland in September? And he says, I know. He says, we'll do it at night with what he called fairy lights. And so that's how the video.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I watched the video right before we came on the podcast. it's beautiful. That's one of my favorite songs, and your rendition of it, absolutely beautiful. Loved it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, really good. Is the intention to add that to other songs and release an album at some point?
It actually was part of an album. Like I said,
Okay.
that was released, but that particular song just kind of got buried, never saw the light of day. And so we thought,
Yeah.
why don't we give it its own special release this year? And so yes.
That's very nice. That's very nice. I did see that you've released like 10 albums.
Yeah.
But you've got an 11th one coming out at some point next year?
Yes. Yes.
Talk a little bit about it. What kind of songs and music are we going to get on it?
Oh, it's always a mix with me. I do some original songs. There are 2 original songs on there. One of my daughters is going to join me on one of them, so that's exciting.
Oh, wow.
And then I do some cover songs. Those are most of them are faith-based, and there are a couple hymns in there. We're doing one that's I would call neoclassical, Nella Fantasia, which is more, if you picture Celtic woman, Josh Groban-ish,
Yeah.
and it's in Italian. So,
Oh, very nice.
but everything that I do, my music is never just purely to entertain. There's so much in my heart that always wants to tell a story and inspire people. And so there's always that aspect. I can't separate who I am from the music. And so I got an email from someone today that said they were not Christian, and they just said they found my music very healing. And so to me, that's the goal. It's like, just if it touches the heart, then I've done a good job. So
pretty good. That's pretty good. Do you speak Italian?
Only as a singer. I can sing in Italian because you kind of learn it as a textbook language. I don't understand it. I speak French. I lived in France when I was young as an exchange.
Oh, very nice.
So if you listen to my music long enough, you'll hear little choruses in French from time to time. So
yeah, it's really good. There was I want to make sure I get it right. For Unto Us was one of the albums we were listening to of yours. Yeah.
That's my favorite.
Yeah, it's really good. It's really good. Yeah, we had the best weekend because my wife, her hobby outside of work is she paints. And when she paints, she just likes having music, and your music is perfect for that because it's soothing, but it's just uplifting enough that she can paint. It doesn't make her want to just stop and relax. She paints. So it was just terrific. And I love watching her paint while I'm, piddling around the house and stuff. So it was a very nice weekend for us.
Oh, I'm so honored. I love this, what she was painting. That's cool.
Yeah. She normally does kind of scenes or locations, places, stuff. This time she was actually doing a person, and it was terrific. It was terrific. So it's really good. I'll send you a picture.
I love it.
She won't let me send it till it's finished because every time I think it's done, she adds another layer and it gets even better. So when it's done, I'll get you one.
Yeah.
So in your spare time, when you're not doing anything music related,
right,
what do you do?
I ride my horse. I have
really?
I'm a horse person. We have a little farmette up here with 6 chickens and 2 dogs, and my husband loves to hunt.
I never would have guessed horse.
Yeah, and I love horses. So I have a little horsey named Lacey, and so I am a very type A personality. I work very hard.
Yeah.
So goal oriented, and so going to the barn every day and just smelling manure and throwing hay around and doing something that's very physical, and just being around the horses. There's just something about that that's very therapeutic to me.
Yeah.
So almost every day you'll find me in a barn.
I love that. Did you grow up around horses?
Yes. Well, I was horse crazy, so I started riding. We never owned a horse, but I loved them so much that I did chores at a local barn to be able to have riding privileges, and just adored being around them. It's something that little girls in particular, just if they're horse crazy, you just can't
Yeah.
get it out of them. So yeah, but I have the horse of my dreams. She's a young black quarter horse, and she
Ooh,
just makes me laugh every day. And she's gorgeous. She looks like Black Beauty. So I just love her.
that's a pretty good description. Is she fast?
Is she fast?
Yeah.
No.
No.
her nickname would be Lazy Lacey.
Very nice.
She's
Good for Lacey.
slow. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds like my kind of horse.
Yeah. Yeah. She's a lot of fun.
What do your children have been there kind of for the whole journey?
Yes.
What do they think about this life and this career that you have built?
I would say I think they're proud of me. We walked through it all together, and so they were very much a part of the journey. They had to let me go if I had to travel to England. They let me go a lot, and that was hard at times. I brought them with me when I could, but there was a lot of sacrifice. And I remember my daughters, they'd put a cup of tea in my car and warm up the car for me, and write me a little note and say, "Mom, go, go, go." You know, if I'd be going down to Nashville to record, they were just so proud, and they would just be like, "Go, Mom," you know. So I think there's that pride. And then also they think I'm hysterically funny. They laugh. I'm eccentric. I'm the quintessential musician artist type, and I just do weird things. So they're always laughing, and they're commenting to each other. Like, you'll see text messages going like, "Does anybody know what country our mother is in today? You know, where's mom? Where is mom?" You know, it's like, "Oh yeah, she's in Ireland. She forgot to tell us." You know, that's the, you know, mom's out of the country. She didn't tell anybody. So they,
I get that because we had 4 children growing up in our home, and my wife travels a lot for work. So they never, that's what I would get all the time. What country is she in today or this week? And I would tell her, they would never know, because they get so used to her traveling, they didn't even ask most of the time. It was just when they finally noticed that she was not around, they'd be like, "Hey, where's mom?"
It's fun. It was such a family. You know, God just healed not only me, but our whole family. There was so much joy instead of the hopelessness we used to live through. So a lot of joy.
I love the fact that you took this gift from your landlord, and you spent all this time now just paying that forward. That's terrific.
I love it. To me, there's no greater joy than to be sharing it with somebody else. It just, I can't think. I'm often traveling in England or wherever and watching people's hearts be changed, or somebody be inspired to make a better choice in life. I go a lot teen challenge centers, talking to kids that are struggling with addiction, and helping them just make some better choices. And I always think to myself, there's no amount of money I could ever make that would equal the joy that I get from seeing somebody's future be changed, because of something I said, or through my music. And so to me, it's there's no comparison. You couldn't pay me any amount of money to take that away.
Yeah, that's so terrific. Do you have plans to tour in the US at some point?
Well, it depends on your definition of touring. I am right now, in the sense I'm very busy performing at the moment. We're in early December, and I have been going full guns performing every week in different cities in the Midwest.
Well, it is Christmas time.
Yeah, it is Christmas. So I'm very busy at the moment. That being said, it's just I'm out on weekends and it's confined to the Midwest. So it's not, the tour bus is not
touring.
Not touring, but it's, yeah.
Yeah, that's still pretty good.
Yeah, it is. I'm busy. I'm a busy musician, and I feel very blessed, very lucky that I can make a living full-time doing music, which is kind of difficult in this day and age.
Sure is. Yeah, sure is. That's so great. Well, Jean, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Before I let you go, though, is there anything else that you're working on, that you've got upcoming, that we can kind of keep an eye out for?
I'm working on a new book about joy, but that one I got to finish the music first before
Right.
I only have so much creative energy, so I finish the music, and then hopefully later in 2022 that second book will make an appearance. So we'll try.
Yeah, that's exciting. That's exciting. Do you paint or sculpt, any other type of creative activity?
Not really. I've done a little bit of painting, just again, just sort of creative therapy, but it's
Yeah.
not anything that I would ever let anyone else see. But I feel like I've got so many irons in the fire with music and writing and horses and
Yeah, you
children.
totally do.
Yeah, and family. So, and some of my kids have kids, so I've got grandkids running around, and so it's a busy.
That's terrific. Being a grandparent, so much better than being a parent. And being a parent's terrific.
Yes.
But you get to spoil them and you get a lot of the good, not so much of the bad, because you can kind of send them back, when they get tired. It's pretty great.
I love it. Grandkids they make us laugh continually.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. It's the best. So the last thing, Jean, before you go, go through your website, where we can find you on social media, and where we can purchase the book.
All right. So my website is jeanwatson.com. It's JEAN. I get confused with the country singer a lot. JEAN Watson.com. Everything is there.
Yeah, it's a really well done website. Did you do that yourself, or do you have somebody do it for you?
I do it.
Yeah, you do a good job.
I'm too cheap to pay someone.
Well, it's well done.
We figured out, but thank you. And I'm active on Facebook. I have a Facebook page, and I connect with people a lot there. Instagram, everything's Jean Watson Music on Facebook and Instagram as well. So.
Yeah, terrific. So where can we find the book?
Oh, sorry. The book would be on the website on the store page. Yeah.
Oh, terrific. That's easy. Yeah. Very exciting. Well, Jean, thank you so much. This has just been the best. You got to come back maybe around when the next book comes out or the next album.
I would love to. Definitely.
Yeah. Okay. Well, hold on one second. All right. So that was the multi-talented Jean Watson. I don't know where she finds the time to do everything. What an inspirational story and life that she is living. That's terrific. If you haven't heard of Jean before, please go and find her website, jeanwatson.com. It's got all her music on there. It's amazing. Her Christmas music is just beautiful, and her classical music is just terrific. Absolutely just so talented with the violin. Beautiful voice too. Can't wait to read the book. I didn't have time to do that before the interview, but I'm excited to check that out. And just the work that she's doing with young people, with her radio program, and going into prisons. I'm so in awe of the terrific, giving, empathetic work that she's doing. It's just amazing. So hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much for tuning in again to the program. Don't take that for granted. There's so much out there that you could be listening to. So thankful that you give us a little bit of your time, and hopefully in return, we're giving you interesting, fun interviews and guests. So I hope you enjoy that. If you haven't done so yet, we could use the help with our YouTube channel, MeisterCon Pod. if you wouldn't mind subscribing, we would appreciate that. You can also find all 300 plus episodes of the show, audio and video, on our website, meistercon.com. There's a terrific blog from my son Brett. I mean, he's a talented writer. It's fun. It's geeky. I think you'll enjoy that. Anything we have going on in studio, or if we're traveling, hopefully we haven't been doing a whole lot of traveling lately, but hopefully that'll be changing going into the new year. All of that will be on the website. So thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.